Dear viewers, welcome back to Payare Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam ki Pyari Batain from the platform of Geo Islam. And before that, we were translating this hadith, and I narrated this hadith, and we translated this about tayyib and these things about haram and financial matters. Translating this. But now we will see a detail by detail explanation. Now, first of all, when it comes, Inna Allah tayyib, Inna Allah tayyibun. Indeed, Allah is pure. What does this distinctive word tayyib mean? What is the meaning of tayyib? How to be tayyib? Before we dive into this, how to be tayyib? The meaning of tayyib? Tayyib means pure, but how? In which state? In which form? In which way is it pure? In which type is it pure? Now Ibn Rajab, he describes it as tahir. He describes tayyib as tahir, pure. But now, for example, this is going to be in the terms of food and clothing, but yes, there are also in financial matter, there is a whole different matter, but we are just taking it as an example. Whole different matter about tayyib. This is not the only one. This is not the last straw, so I'm just giving an example. Now, if we see a goat, that is, halal, right? But it also has to be tayyib. What do I mean? For example, this goat which we are eating is being stolen. It has been stolen from some barn or some shed or something like that, okay? Or some farmer's shed. That is what the meaning is, okay? So, stealing that goat, then eating it. So, yes, the meat is halal. But there is one restriction, there is one prohibition. There is something which is prohibited. There is something which has to be obligatory. Something which is as important as halal, which is permissible, as important as permitted. That is a tayyib, being pure, having it to be pure. And what is that? This is not pure because it means steal from some ranch or barn, and that means that it has been stolen. It is somebody else's property and we are eating it, so it is not pure, it is not tayyib, regardless it is halal. Yes? That is the simple concept of tayyib. The simple concept of tayyib. This is what is tayyib. Inna Allah tayyib. La yaqbalu illa tayyiba. But again, I said that there are other meanings too for tayyib. He does not accept tayyib. What is that? He accepts only tayyib things. Yes, then Allah will give us ajr, right? So, if somebody prays, right? So, it has to be tayyib. What I mean by that? He should not nullify or invalidate the namaz. Like praying salah, he should not forget it. He should not nullify or validate it. No, invalidate it. He should not nullify and invalidate it. That is another meaning of pure, tayyib. Yes. Now, inna Allah amara al-mu'minina bima amara bihi al-mursalin. Now, this doesn't only refer to those people at that time of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ in the Arab time when there were the Muslims. This also rests on the whole modern day people right now. The whole Muslim Ummah, this also rests upon the Muslim Ummah. First of all, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded the messengers. Ya ayyuhar rasulu, O messenger. This is in Surah Mu'minun, as I told. O messengers, kulu binat tayyibati wa'malu salihah. Now, eat from the tayyib, eat from the pure, which also, now, it can also be categorized that halal and tayyib are, both the same things, but eat from the pure, and pure is that something which has to be pure and also has to be halal. So, eat from the pure things, the permitted things, the pure things. وَعْمَلُوا صَالِحًا. And then, do righteous deeds, execute righteous deeds, perform righteous deeds. This is وَعْمَلُوا صَالِحًا. But what does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala command the believers? First we said what the Muslims were commanded. That was, which is the prophets, the messengers, mostly the messengers. It is referring to the messengers. But then, what is it said to the mu'mineen? Now it's said in Surah Baqarah that Ya ayyuhallazina amanu, again a term of mere importance. That whenever it is mentioned, wherever it is mentioned, there is some prohibition or some commandment. Now, Ya ayyuhallazina amanu, like another example is Ya ayyuhallazina amanu idha nudiya lis-salati. Now, min yawm al-jumu'ati fas'aw ila zikrillahi wa zarul bayt. It's a commandment. Now, let's see over here that it's said to the believers, Ya ayyuhallazina amanu qulu min tayyibati ma razaqnakum. Eat from the pure and lawful, and what we provided you, from the provisions which are lawful and pure. ثم ذكر الرجل يطيل السفر. Now comes the part which I have to discuss with mere importance. Then he mentioned about, we said Ashasa Akbara Yamuddu Yadayhi ila Samai Ya Rabbu Ya Rabb. Again, that was the thing. But now let's go on to this. وَمَطْعَمُهُ haram. Now we will talk about food and clothes over here for a while. This will be like how to have tayyib and halal. Now, for example, let's make it clear cut. It's clear cut. It is clear, 110% clear that food has to be halal in order to eat it. So, of course, we need to have something which is halal, like we can say goat or chicken, okay, or beef, okay, that is halal, but pork is not halal. So that's why it is prohibited. Yes, that is the thing. That is what is halal. So it has to be halal. Then there are going to be some commandments which is also said in Surah Nahl. Don't eat the lahmul khinzir. Then don't eat animal which has been killed. With not zabaha, but something which has been killed. It has got hit in a tree, slammed face, and just like that. So yeah, that is not. And something which has fallen down. Yeah, something sacrificed in the name other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'm on the jackpot. That is the first point. Something sacrificed other from the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is another checklist. Now, if it is mentioned in this animal, it has to be halal and tayyib. Now, if it's not tayyib, it is mentioned in the name of, some other god, idols, La, Tuza, or it is somebody else other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it is haram. It's not tayyib. It is not tayyib, it is not tahir. But if it is mentioned in the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, yes, of course, it is gonna be permissible to eat it. Now comes something which has the greatest and dearest importance. That what if it is sacrificed in the name of nobody? Not those idols, not those other false gods, nor Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now this has many, this is wallahu alam, but many fuqaha, many jurists, they have their own interpretations on this, like Imam Shafi'i says that there is no harm in this. Imam Malik says that yes, there is a little bit of makruh, okay, makruh tanzihi. Now Imam Abu Hanifa and Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal say that this is haram and this is strictly forbidden. That is something which over here is not tayyib, which it derives on the options. Now let's go ahead to the next category. It's feed. Now it's feed in something like those things which are coming out on the streets, the new kids on the block, GMOs. Those things again, if they're fed by that, like I've heard this research. This is of course in the US. I don't know how much is in Pakistan. That chickens have been fed on arsenic. Yes, this is the thing. you have to have a natural diet, corn or something like that, which is natural. I mean, fed on herbs. That's why I mean something fed on herbs, something natural, organic, meat. That is again something which is tayyib, not stolen. It's again something which has to be tayyib, and something which has good income. Okay, that is another thing. Now, of course, ahead of this is wa mashrabuhu haram. The same things apply for these, but I mean there are some things which don't apply, but I mean something which has to be lawful. Okay, and it should be like water, juice or something like that, which is lawful, which is not unlawful. Then after that is clothing. Yes, the sitr which is told, that will be followed. But now let me come to the last part of all, which is very interesting and very important. It's finance. Now I have read a lot about Islamic finance, and there is many things like riba, and I have heard a hadith the other day that I came across a hadith the other day that it is narrated that there are 7 akbar of the kabair, something which are the most biggest of the sins of the sins, which are like they are like the father of the sins. They are the sins of the sins, the biggest of the biggest sins, 7 akbar of the kabair. But in there is one which really surprised me, that is riba. And this riba is very important. Interest has been used everywhere. That's why our income should always be tayyib. Now over here a lot of matters string open, and those are going to take us into vast valleys, but I prefer it should be discussed in the most briefest manner possible. Of course, we need to have halal income. Halal income. What does this mean? That we should have those income which is earned by a lawful way. For example, farming, or for example in these lawful ways, or like sometimes shoveling somebody's driveway when it's snowing. Of course, then it's gonna happen. That's earning money from that for some work. That is another type of halal income. Or lawn mowing in the summer, that is another type of halal income. But begging from people is not something. So yeah, that's what I discussed in the briefest manner possible. Then riba interest, yeah, it has a lot of open gates. But for now, we should just have the clear concept that income should be halal. We should always earn it by a halal way. Okay, we have just discussed it in the briefest manner possible. That's going to open into vast gates and valleys. But now, for now, we should just have the clear concept that everything should be lawful. That's when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to answer us. So, this is all for today, and inshallah, I'm going to meet with you in the next in the next program of Payare Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam ki Pyari Batain. Inshallah, that is also about doubt. It also is very joining with the 6th hadith. But until now, we will just stop and wait for the next hadith. So I pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He gives us the tawfiq to do amal on this and to interpret this, to have ilm and amal of this, to have the knowledge of this, give the power to have the knowledge of this, and also to act on this. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us reward, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keeps us straight on the straight path of Sirat-e Mustaqim. May we eat lawful foods, lawful drink, everything should be lawful, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can make us obtain and attain Jannat al-Firdaus. ربنا أتمم لنا نورنا واغفر لنا إنك على كل شيء قدير. ربنا لا تجعلنا فتنة للذين كفروا واغفر لنا ربنا إنك أنت العزيز الحكيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.